والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
To continue our halaqa about hadith, Mustalah, Al-Hadith, before we move, we may ask some few questions inshallah to start. So first of all, we talked about the benefits of learning Mustalah Al-Hadith, which is to stand in a very strong position to accept a hadith or to reject hadith. That is the benefit. To be able to know that with no doubt this hadith are accepted, whatever content are accepted or are rejected without any doubt. Because that hadith is your deen. That hadith that you are accepting or rejecting is your deen. You accept it based on this process, you are accepting from your deen. You're rejecting it, you're protecting your deen because you're rejecting something that is not authentic from the Prophet ﷺ. So this is the Mustalah Al-Hadith, and we divided actually the hadith itself, the narration itself into categories, which is you have a hadith itself, and then you have what? You have khabar, which is the information that came to you, and also you have athar, you have a narration that was said by a sahaba, radwanullahi alayhim, and it can be extended all the way to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, if there is an athar an nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. Then you have al-hadith al-Qudsi, which is the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ narrated from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-hadith al-Qudsi, and we talked about the meaning of hadith al-Qudsi. Now also we talked about the focus that the Mustalah will do, which is focusing on two things in the beginning, only two things, which is al-isnad and also the matan. Good. What is al-isnad?
Yes, that is the men and women that narrate that.
Good. The man and the woman who narrated the hadith, which is the chain. The chain, and I want to talk about that. I'm going to give examples here about the chain, how the chain, is determined by the muhaddithin or by the al-naql. So the matan and the isnad is the people that narrated this hadith from a generation to a generation, from a teacher to a student, from a teacher to a student, till it reached to us today, or till it was put in the collections. And also that will help us how to determine this hadith is authentic. We're gonna go to that also. So that is al-isnad. How about al-matan?
Is actual text.
Al-matan is the actual text. Is the word that was narrated by these narrators. That's the matan. Al-matan is the word that they narrated from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So the narration will be a narration if it has two things. Anyone can say anything. You can narrate something from anybody else. But if we want to consider it as a hadith or athar or khabar or hadith al-Qudsi, it has to have men and women who narrate the hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, verified authentically, generation after generation, and what they said also is authentically getting from the Prophet ﷺ. That is very important because this is how the deen reached to us. So I'm quickly going to review, and it's always good to review inshallah so we can get it inshallah settled down in our minds inshallah ta'ala. So classifying the ahadith, you will have hadith al-mutawatir and hadith al-ahad. That you have to be with me. We have hadith al-mutawatir and we have hadith al-ahad. What is al-hadith al-mutawatir?
Mutawatir is a narration that's narrated by 4 different narrators.
It's a narration that has in the chain no less than 4 people, minimum 4 people. What does that mean? Mutawatir. What does that mean? I'll explain that later. Because the piece that is missing, till you get that piece, you may miss it. So a narration that has at least in the chain 4 people. 4 people. And al-mutawatir is divided into 2. Which means al-mutawatir, al-mutawatir, باللغة العربية first, then we translate it. Al-mutawatir, لفظا ومعنى. Al-mutawatir, that is together in text and in meaning. You have the hadith in different chains, different narrators, but all of them are saying the same thing. Example, we saw Abdullah in Masjid al-Sunnah having an imamah Friday night or Saturday night. Right? I say that, you say that, you say that, the other person said that. The same way of giving the information and the same way of giving the meaning. No one will come and say, I saw Abdullah wearing a hat in the masjid on Friday night. If that happens, then that will remove it from al-mutawatir al-ma'na wal-lafz. Right? That is the first mutawatir. The second mutawatir is the one that, this example I just did right now, which is mutawatir lafzan duna ma'na wa ma'na duna lafz. So their wording is the same, but the meaning is different. Or the meaning is the same, but the wording is different. Right? We all look at Abdullah, we were all here at the same time, and I can say, I saw Abdullah sitting and having an imamah on his head. And someone will say, I saw Abdullah sitting and having a hat on his head. So, the description is different. The description is different. So here, that will take that to the lower level of al-mutawatir lafz wal-ma'na. Now we go to the hadith less than that, which is hadith al-ahad. So the hadith al-mutawatir, the benefit of it, if you see any hadith that is classified as mutawatir, you cannot deny it. You cannot reject it. You have to understand this is part of the wahy thani, which is from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. You cannot deny it or have doubt, even have doubt about that. I will slightly bring aqidah here. One of the things that nullifies person's Islam, one of the things that takes the person away from Islam is to reject or to deny anything that is authentic narrated from the Prophet ﷺ. So hadith al-mutawatir, then if we move to aqidah, if the hadith is in a position of al-mutawatir or classified as mutawatir, if you deny it or reject it, you denying something that is authentically from the Prophet ﷺ, and that takes away the person out of Islam. Right? Al-kufru بمحمد أو بما جاء بمحمد يخرج الإنسان من الملة. So if you reject anything about it, if you reject Prophet ﷺ, no doubt you're not Muslim. But anything that he brought, how would you know that this is from Prophet ﷺ when we don't have any doubt about it? Which is one of the ways of having it is to know hadith al-mutawatir. Then mutawatir both. Then we go to hadith al-ahad. Hadith al-ahad, which means three, like what ahad itself. Ahad is a hadith that they call singular hadith. Singular. I didn't explain that. Ahad, right? Ahad is singular hadith. That the popular one, which is al-mutawatir, less than that in hadith al-ahad. Let me see if they have the definition here, which is the hadith al-ahad is the hadith that is called or is defined as a singular hadith, and is divided into 3 categories. It's divided into 3 categories. When it comes to their chain, and when it comes to the chain, it's divided into 3 categories. And when it comes to the narration itself, is divided into 5 categories, and we'll go to that. We'll go to that. The first category, which will be al-mashhur and al-aziz and Al-Gharib.
Sahih.
Al-Gharib.
It's a Sahih.
Is it Sahih? Al-Gharib. Al-Gharib. So it's good. Sahih is going to be when it comes to the narration itself. Yes. So Al-Gharib. So let's take three. One is Al-Mashhur, which means three and more, which what we can say the translation popular, right? Well known, famous, right? That's Mashhur, but it's under the category of Ahad. And we have Al-Aziz, which is two, which is considered strong. And that is at least you have two narrators, no less than two narrators, which is called Al-Aziz. And then you have the Hadith Al-Gharib, which is rare Hadith, right? Kind of like Gharib, strange Hadith, which means one person narrated that. And before we move here, I want to understand this. This is what they call one person in all the tabaqat. Do you know tabaqat? Tabaqat, okay, I'm going to give an example of the tabaqats. The tabaqat, you have the first tabaqat is a Sahaba. It is Sahaba. So, when you have this tabaqat, how many people? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then you have each one of them narrated a hadith and transformed the hadith to another person. So this is tabaqah. This is tabaqah. Generations. So, and then that generation will narrate it to another generation. So this generation, if you understand hadith al-mutawatir, it has to be a different chain. A different chain. And in the chain that we get the hadith from has each generation, you have 4 people. That's tabaqah. That's mutawatir.
So 4 different narrators.
4 different chains. 4 different, in the generation, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. This Sahabi, let's say Ibn Umar, right? Let's say Umar. Let's say Ali. Let's say Ibn Mas'ud, right? Another person. They all narrated from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So if they all narrated from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, each one of them will have students. And each student narrated the hadith from their teacher. So in this tabaqah, we have 4 narrators. In this tabaqah, we must have 4. In this tabaqah, we must have 4. Till it reached us that hadith becomes mutawatir. In this tabaqah, if we have in one tabaqah, we have 4. In this, we have 3. It goes down. The hadith level goes down. So this chain, this tabaqah has to stay till the hadith is connected. We get that? Now this is going to be called mutawatir. And mutawatir can be lafz or ma'na or lafz. But I want to understand the concept of tabaqat. So what is the first tabaqah? Is the Sahaba. You have 4 different Sahaba who narrated one hadith from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And then you have 4 tabi'i who narrated the hadith from different 4 Sahaba. You have 4 tabi'i who narrated the same hadith from the tabi'i. And then that's how you get it till it reaches the collections. We get this point. Now, this is the mutawatir. Now you have the ahad, right? The ahad is divided into 3 categories, right? 3 tabaqat, 3 categories. 3 categories, which is al-mashhur, gharib, and aziz, or mashhur, aziz, and gharib, right? So now, what is al-mashhur? Famous. What is the definition of mashhur? 3 narrators in each tabaqah. 3, so this is going to be aziz, right? So this aziz, that's mashhur. So mashhur has to have 3 narrators. What I want to clear here is that when you have 3 narrators, you may think it's 1, 2, 3. No, it's 1. There have to be a generation of 3 people, different people. A generation of different people, a generation of different people. Now, when you have Umar, Ali, Uthman, or Mas'ud narrated from the Prophet ﷺ, and we find that no one else narrated this hadith from the Prophet ﷺ except these three people. That has to continue to the next generation. You have three. It has to continue to the next generation. If you come to this generation, you have two, the hadith will fall down to a different category, which will be Aziz. So it has to come all the way to where the hadith is collected with three tabaqat, in the tabaqat with three narrators, that will make the hadith remain as the hadith al-mashhur. Now,
if we have a person in the second tabaqa
yes,
that heard the hadith from Umar and Ali,
that's gonna be, we're gonna go to the, but that's gonna be marfu'. So if we have one here, this is a tabi'i, right? This is a tabi'i, it's a sahabi. So the tabi'i said, I heard from the Prophet. Or it was heard from the Prophet, but we didn't have a person here. That's marfu'.
Sahabi. No Sahabi there.
Not sahabi, that's marfu'. And you're going to learn hadith marfu' also. So, but now we are going to the hadith al-mashhur. So mashhur is all these tabaqat. You have three sahabi, three tabi'i, three tabi'i, three and three, till it comes to us. That will be considered hadith ahad mashhur in categorizing it, classifying it.
three unique chains.
Three unique chains, and that has to come. So whenever you lose one, there's a problem. We will end up having a problem in the chain, which will be more advanced. Like for example, just to give an idea, you have all these chains. Then in this chain, you find a person who's weak here, who has a red flag here. Who has a red flag here. We'll get that in the future. But right now, we just want to make sure we understand the tabaqat. So the tabaqat is 1, 2, 3. There's a generation. And it has to be come and continue till it reaches to us and the hadith become ahad mashhur. No, ahad mashhur. And then you only have two sahaba. Two sahaba who narrated, two tabi'in narrated, two tabi'in narrated, and so on. It's going to be hadith al-aziz. It's going to be hadith al-aziz. And it has to be continued. And then you have one chain in all tabaqat. Gharib. You know what gharib? Strange. Bada dinu ghariban wa sayaudu ghariban. The Prophet ﷺ said, the deen started strange and it will go back strange. You can make a research, is that hadith mutawatir? Or if that hadith is gharib? Or if that hadith is, my head is not there. So, or the hadith is sahih, right? And we don't talk about sahih. So now, this hadith was narrated by Ibn Mas'ud. Ibn Mas'ud, one student, heard from Mas'ud. Ibn Mas'ud's student also taught this hadith to one person. And this person taught this hadith to one person. Till it reached to us that hadith become hadith ahad, lakin gharib. Lakin gharib. So this I want to understand, okay? So now we get their understanding of hadith. So this is when it comes to the chain of the ahad. When it comes to the chain. Now let's go when it comes to the matan. When it comes to the matan. So according to the hadith categorizing it, according to the number of narrator in the chain of transmitting the hadith. That is what we just did right now, right? And second one, according to the level of their authenticity of the hadith. And also that has a process, that has a process itself. So now, let's go. Al-Hadith, Al-Ahad, ينقسم إلى ثلاث أقسام من حيث al-Isnad. So it's categorized into three when it focuses on the chain, which is Al-Mashhur, Al-Aziz, Al-Gharib. So now another question, the same thing, I'm going to ask a different question. What makes the hadith mashhur? The number of the chain. The number of the people who are in the chain. That makes it mashhur, right? How many? Three people. Three, Uthman. Okay, three. You're scared, Uthman. 3, right? What makes the hadith gharib? One where?
One chain.
One ender, one person in the chain in all tabaqat, right? What makes the hadith al-aziz?
Two people in chain against
Two people transmit the hadith. This is when it comes to the classifying the hadith into categories, right? Now, when it comes to the narration, how do we know that this hadith, in terms of the narration itself, is going to be categorized into 5 categories? Five categories. Okay? Now we're talking about mutawatir, remember? We're talking about the ahad, right? The ahad. So now, when it comes to the level of the authenticity of the hadith, the first thing that we should check is the narration or the narrator who reported what they reported. We have to memorize that. We have to memorize that. That's one way. The person who narrated, what they narrated, we have to focus on that, which is the matan. The matan. Now we're talking about the chain anymore. We're talking about the matan. A little bit will be focused on the narrator in this case. We have to look at, now we're done with the chain, right? Now we are going to we have all the chains. Now we have to authenticate the authenticity of the chain. This not. Yes. No. There are 2 things. Now we have this, right? We have this. We don't care if it's something or not. We have this as Ahad Al-Aziz, right? It's done. We classify this hadith as Ahad Aziz. Now when you come to what was narrated, the matan, the first thing you will do is, okay, this guy, investigate him. Was he the same generation with this guy? Was he in the same generation with this guy? Not from what they narrated. Number 1, this line, was the same generation? Because if this person said, I narrated from this person in this tabaqa, they have to be the same generation, even though they didn't hear from the same person, but they have to be from the same generation. Number 2, you have to look at the personal connection between this person and this person. The personal connection, the chance of eliminating any doubt that this person heard the hadith from this person, that has to be eliminated completely. That's number 2. And then you come to what they narrated. That's one way of authenticating the matan. The second way of authenticating the matan is this person, they call it takhrij. Okay, this person, was he a good person? That comes. Was he a person with a good memory? That comes. Was he old and reached to an age of dementia, for example? All that has to come in order this person to be considered as thiqa. Was he trustworthy? All that will come, and then you will say, I said this generation, all of them meet the requirements. That we know that they are the same generation, each one of them is authentic narrated from the person narrated from, right? And then they're all in good state of mind, right? And they are not affected in forgetfulness. If that happens, then we have to catch where that started. And all the ahadith that started from that age of forgetting or wahm or mixing things, those ahadith also have to be filtered and put somewhere else. But it cannot be in the stage of authenticating it, because it's not authentic, because we don't know. So it's going to be put on somewhere that we'll learn. You got it? Now we come to the matan. We come to what was said. What was said by this person. The final way of determining that what they narrate is authentic is to have a person who did all the process and is trustworthy and collect the hadith, such as Imam Bukhari, or Imam Muslim, or finally Imam Albani, rahimahullah. They put the effort and they give the process and they come to this as authentic based on the process of the hadith. So this is how we focus on authenticating the isnad and also authenticating the matn. So two different things. How can you make sure that you classify the hadith? Is by having the numbers of the narrators. How to authenticate the hadith itself is to authenticate the chain and authenticate what they have said.
The hadith as an entire, the hadith in terms of the matn.
The matn is the hadith.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yes, the matn is the hadith. Whenever they say, because, so the terms, you get them. So when I say isnad, we learned it. Isnad is the chain, matn is the hadith.
Okay.
The reason why we don't use hadith is when we say hadith, we categorize it into hadith al-Qudsi, right? So now when we say matn, is the word that was narrated. Okay? Isnad is the chain of the men and women of the hadith. Okay. Now that's the way of knowing if the hadith is authentic based on the chain and based on the matn. Now, another problem. You have to divide the hadith al-ahad also into 5 categories. 5 categories after you authenticate this, after you do the authentication. Because while you're authenticating this, you will find some problems with the men and the women. With the men and the women. First will be hadithun, the first category, hadithun sahihun li ghayrihi. Sahihun li dhatihi. Sahihun li dhatihi. Is authentic by itself.
Is this an ahad?
Yes, ahad.
It's an
Yes,
ahad.
ahad. Mutawatir will have a problem with it. It's an ahad. So, sahihun li dhatihi. So this hadith, when we went and make investigation on the chain and everything, this Sahabi is correct. It's correct, right? This Tabi'in is correct. It's correct. Hadith is correct. This Sahihun li ghayrihi. But it's still ahad, right? Li dhatihi. It's still ahad, right? Li dhatihi by itself, right? But it's still ahad. It's not mutawatir. Mutawatir doesn't have this, doesn't need this process. So hadith al-mashhur mutawatir sahih li dhatihi. So here, the hadith doesn't need anything else to be put in on and say, it's okay, it's not, right? But it by itself, right? Now you have the same hadith. You have a problem. You're having a problem with the narrators. You come here, this person has a problem. There's another person here, right? But this person is good, right? And this person also is good. This person is good, but this person is really, really bad. And then you come here to this person, you find here. That's a problem. That is a problem. So here, in this chain, we can say Sahih. We talk about Sahih that, right? Now we're ghayrihi. So if it is stopped here, you have this narration and this is authentic, but the third one is not authentic because of this man. So the hadith does not is still in the mashhur, right? But it will still remain in mashhur, but hadithun sahihun mashhurun li ghayrihi.
How's it still sound?
It's sahih. Because of one narration against one narration would give the same matn, but we have weakness here. We pack this with these 2 narrations.
What, the third tabaqa?
No, I'm talking about here. Now stop here. Stop the second tabaqa. So the second tabaqa is authentic, right? But not by itself. One chain is not authentic because of this man is authentic, right? But this man is not authentic. This man is authentic, but this is authentic also. This one the same, this one the same. We good here, right? So how can you authenticate this one, this man? By blocking it with these two. Right? 2 verses, 1, and it's good. Right?
So you can just have Aziz.
But we're
No.
still in Mashhur.
Mashhur. We didn't put it down.
With the Mashhur, you have now 2 that you are sure, 2 James. Which is Aziz.
Sorry.
You have X's right there, so now don't look. Okay.
Yeah. So now it's still mashhur, right?
Is it in the second isnad, it still has an X in the third tabaqah. Is that fine?
This is correct. This is correct.
The third tabaqah.
This is X.
In the second isnad, the third tabaqah is an X. Is that right?
Yes. So now I'm driving into something.
Okay.
I'm driving into something. Now, do we have a problem here to degrade the hadith? Can we say no? This hadith we're just going to eliminate this chain and it become al-aziz?
Not yet.
Not yet. You got it?
No, because we have.
Only look at the second tabaqah.
Second tabaqah.
In each tabaqah, it has to be good until it gets to us, right?
No.
That's what I want to
Now we're categorizing it also to make sure that is divided into 5 categories. Okay?
Concerning its medicine.
No, the whole entire thing.
The whole entire thing.
Yes.
But
So
you have-
hold on, you're missing the division. Now we're done. Okay, let me go back. I'm going back. You have to let me get.
No, I got it, Sheikh, but we
He's
so
just
the first
skipping
thing is
it. You're skipping to the third
you said
tabaqah.
it's not all of it. That each narration, each tabaqah has to be good
Yes.
for us to authenticate it. But,
Yes.
But you didn't mention the third tabaqah in each one. There's no check
No,
mark across
no,
it.
now,
'Cause you said until it reaches us or a collection.
okay, I know what you're talking about. Okay, let me explain to you. Easy after that. Very, very easy way. Now, we need to have, can you play with this and give me a hadith that is ahad, which is mashhur? Yes. What do you do first?
Because I look at the isnad.
This is what you do first.
So you have to do.
3 tabaqat.
So you
Tabaqah,
Yes.
every isnad.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That's it. You say, as long as I have this, it's mashhur. You have to understand, when did I start saying to authenticate the chain? There's a difference here, right?
You said that earlier. You said authenticate both the text and the message. You said authenticate earlier.
Yeah, but it's a process. It's a process of reaching, because this division that they did, you have to follow the process. So now, number one process is, if you see this, what do you consider, what do you call this hadith?
I'll call it
Al-Hadith.
Ahad mashhur. Why?
'cause it's
1,
three
2, 3.
generations.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Good. Now, did you learn about the matan?
I did not yet.
Good. So can you determine this hadith is authentic? That's it? No, because there's a process that is missing, right? Now you come to the second study, which will be determining to classify the hadith, right?
You said determine. You said first is you look at each narration and how many people are in each generation.
Yep.
Then you said the second thing is you look at each narrator.
Hold on. From there, you're done. You're done with that process. You're done the process of putting the numbers. That number will put the hadith in mashhur. You have this. So within the mashhur is also divided into 5 categories.
They could all be false. It still be
They-
mashhur
yep.
because you have 13.
Yes. So within the mashhur, you have to go through a process of knowing this is mashhur, but it's called Hasan, it's called Sahihun li dhatihi, it's called Sahihun li ghayrihi, and it's 5.
I got you.
And you explain that,
Yes.
which means they're all
Yes.
check.
So now li dhatihi, this person was checked, is good. This person is checked, is good. It's good. It's good, right? It's good. It's good. It's good. So this will make it Sahihun lidhatihi. So this is called Sahih lidhatihi. So Sahih lidhatihi is still under mashhur.
Yes.
But it's Sahih lidhatihi. What makes Sahih lidhatihi? What makes Sahih lidhatihi?
All of them are
All Jews.
Good. You got it now? Good. I love that. I used to be like you. I never understand. Till I understand. So now, we want to go Sahihun li ghayrihi.
Sheikh, can you just tell us what does it mean linguistically, sahih lidhatihi? Does that mean authenticated?
No, authenticate by itself. It doesn't need to lean toward any chain. So it's authenticate by itself.
Authentic itself.
Yeah, it authentic itself. Right? And we need to check, right? So Sahih lidhatihi, authentic itself. Right? So now, under the same mashhur, what you missed earlier is the external mashhur, right?
No, because what you did, you only focus on those two. The first two tabaqat, you didn't mention anything about the third tabaqat.
Yeah, actually I was coming. I was coming.
We're just
Now you get it, right? Right? So now we start with this check. We have no problem with this. It's mashhur, and that mashhur, we look at this line, 3 all correct, right? 3 all correct. 3 all correct, right? So that keeps it sahihun. You're going to give it now mashhur anymore. Mashhur is the umbrella. So under the mashhur, you're going to have 5 categories. And one will be sahihun lidhatihi. What makes sahih lidhatihi? All this is correct. You got this, right? Good. Now we go to sahihun lighayrihi. So, and it's going to still be under mashhur. Because if it moves from mashhur, then we have a problem. But within there, under the mashhur thing, what makes it sahih lidhatihi, which we did. Now sahihun li ghayrihi is authentic by others. Right? Now, the sahabi is authentic. I'm going to give more. Okay? So the sahabi, we checked this correct, right? This guy is correct. This guy is wrong. And this guy is wrong and this guy is correct. Right? But this guy, and then the same thing applies here. Right?
And the Sahabi, right?
Most likely Sahabi is always correct. Most of the time. Except if we have a problem with this guy, who claim they hear from the Sahaba, we find out that they never saw the Sahaba. That would be the problem. Or they never lived together, or they never even met. That's a problem. That is a problem. Or, I'll take you somewhere else. Or, we have this Sahabi against other Sahabi. We have 2 conflicting narrations. 2 complete conflicting narrations about the hadith in a different chain. So that will be qawl sahabi. That will be a sahabi and a sahabi are contesting, right? So in this case, that will change the whole entire thing, right? Who's going to accept and who's going to reject it? That's something else. But here we have them right. So now, how can we make this hadith to remain? It's still authentic, right? You can depend on, but how can we keep this hadith under the umbrella of mashhur?
3 now.
3 is 3, right? Yeah, but one we can patch it, right? We can against it to the other. Yeah, this is a gap, but it cannot fall all the way here, right? This will intercept it, and this will intercept it, right? This is a gap. We also have here, and then all this is correct, all this is correct, all this is correct. We said, okay, this narration has a problem, but it will not affect the hadith to come down under the level of al-mashhur.
Does it matter which narration or how many narrators it is, or?
If you have this X, you have X here, you cannot patch it. Because the whole tabaqah has a problem. You cannot patch it. You get it?
Yeah, but it's not that how many narrators are bad in one in one isnad, right?
Yeah,
As long as the other isnad can catch it as well.
yeah, and that will also be a problem. So now we have two. So now we have Sahih li-ghayri, right?
That's it.
And it's gonna, something is gonna come. So what you understand right now is we have this guy, we have the narration, which was this was wrong, right? And this was correct. This was correct. So now, can we agree to make this hadith to remain under the umbrella or to be in the category of mashhur? Yes, because actually the problem is there, but is one and against two who are authentic in the same generation. In the same generation. So, maybe this person we just say, well, he can be mudallis, he can be, but his weakness will not affect the authenticity of this one and this one. So that will keep the hadith in the category of mashhur. Because all the three chains can be used by making this one against all these ones. Because they are not in the same, the problems are in the same generation.
It could be mashhur, it could be sahih, li-ghayrihi, even if the one narrator is a liar or he wasn't even in the same generation.
Yes, as long as here. So now,
As long as he's
yes, now don't say, no, you don't say a liar, but don't say mashhur anymore. Yes, mashhur will umbrella. Mashhur will umbrella, and it has something underneath, right? You have to use that. Sahihun li-ghayrihi, right? And that's what they call hasan. You will see hadith hasan, right? So sahihun li-ghayrihi. But sahihun li-ghayrihi, is it mutawatir? No. Is it aziz? No. Is it gharib? No. Why is it? On the mashhur. Right? The process here. So now we have to get that process going. So now, what do we have? Now we have let's go back here. And I'm going to ask questions right now to make sure that we get now, Dalla, I'm going to ask a question. Now we have all these tabaqat free, and we have this guy wrong. What would you consider this hadith? The name of the hadith?
Oh, that one? What do you mean?
We have all these chains.
Yeah, all three chains.
Yes, are all good. But the one who collected the hadith has a problem. How would you call it hadith?
That's a specific hadith?
Yeah, the chain, the whole thing.
All three of them.
Yes, the whole thing.
Sorry, the isnad or called mashhur?
No, to classify the hadith. Sahih only? I tricked you because I just made one person to be wrong. So if one person is wrong, can be accepted by this person, right? So that make the hadith remain to be hadith sahih only, right? I'm gonna ask another question. You find all these chain, all correct. What do you call the hadith? Sahihun li dhatihi. Good, that's all I want. So sahihun li dhatihi is when the hadith doesn't need, and when any chain is in need of putting another chain to make it authentic, make it strong, right? So when you have one in one chain, or in one chain you have two errors, two men who have a red flag in it. You look at the one under that. Do you have two against one? That will make the hadith remain as hadith sahihun. You can call it also hadith hasan. Hadithun hasan.
It's just two men. It's just two men or women.
Two?
It's just two men or women that are that.
No, they don't. When it comes to Al-Hadith, they don't care. Yeah, they don't. That's why they said the narrator. It doesn't. There's no process of shahada here. Aisha narrated from the Prophet ﷺ. She's considered tabaqa. Another woman narrated after that. She's considered tabaqa. So it doesn't mean you don't need two men two women in
No,
the...
I mean two narrators. Is it limited to only two narrators in the chain?
Yes.
It can be more.
Yes, no. Here, because we're going to go to another category, which I will delay for next time. So now, all I need to understand is, you have all of them together with no problem, which is Sahihun li dhatihi. You have one has a problem within the narration. It can be here, it can be here, it can be here. But that will make the hadith remain as Sahihun li ghayrihi, because it can be. Now,
The problem with the one chain,
you can have
whether
multiple
it's
men.
one link, is it just one link?
One,
Or it could be three links, but they get, or are we just talking about one link?
yeah, one link for now.
Just one.
Just one link. Just this link may have error here, error here. But
that's
then,
limited to two errors.
yeah, two errors, but it's just in one, two different, but it's
So it could
one.
be 2, 3,
Yes.
but it's one,
Yes.
it's not.
Yes, so you can put this weak thing on top of this and you can say, okay, it melted inside and we have no problem. And that will make it sahih only. You get it?
Yes.
And that is how,
not
that's
limited
it.
to.
Hmm?
It's not limited to two.
It's not limited to two as long as it's in the
Same chain.
it's on the different chain. So that will change, and I don't want to start this because the time is over. So now, to make a quick review.
No, we have 20 minutes.
Oh, we have 20 minutes. Okay. Now we have quick review. Now I want to ask questions. Number one question is the mutawatir. Hadith al-mutawatir. How can I make a hadith mutawatir here?
One more chain.
Add another
Make it 4.
chain. So now it's mutawatir, right? How about if we have a problem here?
It's not going to be two
It's not
errors.
Huh?
It's not going to be two errors.
Oh, we didn't study this.
Still not
We don't have classification.
Huh?
You
We
didn't
don't
tell
have
us.
classification for mutawatir.
This will be mutawatir.
The process is the same.
Yeah, okay. We don't know the different categories.
Yeah, the process is going to be the same. So,
So mutawatir لذاته mutawatir
Sahih
لغيره.
al-Hadith even?
no,
This doesn't affect.
it doesn't affect this. No, it doesn't affect. So, I'm going to give you a simple process. Now, you have this chain, right? And you have the tree. Forget about this one. You still put the hadith in the mashhur or sahih al-lidati, right? You didn't throw the hadith. So it makes it stay mutawatir. And you have to notice, what makes the hadith mutawatir adna is when you have only the meaning and
Without
And wording.
the wording and the meaning become the same as mutawatir, lafdhan wa ma'na, right? That's all they focus on mutawatir. And then when you have the lafdh and the ma'na is different, mutawatir, lafdhan wa ma'na, like second level of mutawatir. Good. So you will not find a hadith that is classified as a mutawatir to have more than this. This may happen, but it's not going to be more than that. So it's still considered mutawatir.
It's not going to be more than one
No.
mistake.
More than one mistake. Well, one thing. Two thing is you will not find more than two, more than four into the meaning, like this into the wording, into the wording, because this hadith can be narrated by this person, but this person can say the hadith twice in different wording. I'm going to give an example. Twice. I'm going to give an example. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala narrated the story of Musa alayhi salam. How many times? Different wording. Right? Different wording, more than two. A lot of time. The word is different, but the meaning comes, and sometimes you reach to a point that you think that, oh, maybe the story was a different story, the way it was narrated. So the same narrator, but it cannot be more than, if the mutawatir is based on 4, and we have mutawatir can be 70 hadith, has 70 sahaba, right? But we go with the number of the chain to determine the number of the wording of the narrator. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we said it's mutawatir, right? Then you have this person will say the word of the hadith in different ways.
With the same meaning.
With the same
Meaning.
the same meaning, but different wording. What do you classify the hadith?
Same. That's also change.
It's going to still
Tawatur.
mutawatir. Good. Now, if we have this person said something the same, and this person give the same meaning, but different wording. The second person.
Still same.
Still mutawatir. Good. Now you have 2 of them, or 3 of them, or 4 of them. None of them cares about the wording, but they all give the same meaning. 1, 2, 3, 4. They all give the same meaning. 3 of them, or 4 of them all give the same meaning. Mutawatir, still mutawatir. You know why? Because the mutawatir is based on focus on 2 things. Number 1 is the number of the number of the chain, of course, and then the meaning and the wording. So we can only put it high class mutawatir or second level mutawatir, regardless of the changes that may happen with another process of it. It will be completely come out of mutawatir if you have weakness in one chain. It takes it where? Ahad. It moves from mutawatir to ahad. So the reason I brought that is, you may see a hadith that has classified as mutawatir, then you see one here and you say, oh, this is ahad. No, it still have the rank of mutawatir till you lose one whole entire chain. And how the chain may be there, but you will find, how can you lose the chain? How can you lose the chain?
All people in the chain,
Have an issue.
or one of them.
No, one is okay.
All of them.
So all of them.
All of them have different. That's it. This chain will be wrong, and it will be this hadith will be downgraded to ahad mashhur, right? We get it? Good. That's why I want to clarify why. Any question? I'll stop there. Abdullah, you get it?
Question.
Nah, big question.
You brought up
Abdullah.
Hassan. What is that?